Hey everyone, it's Shane from The Last Chance. This is my face. This is my toilet. This is my picture of Craig Bellamy. This is my office chair. This is my pool table. This is my other toilet. This is the set of stairs I fell down and broke my leg on. This is my other toilet. It's pretty powerful. This is my tattoo I got when I broke my leg falling down the stairs. And this is the last chance to save the tote. Hey everyone, I've just got a little update for you from the Last Chance to Save the Tote campaign. Firstly, I just wanted to shout out to Triple R and PBS, Nicole, Rory, Respect the Rot, Bang It, two of the best radio stations in the country for having me on. It was fantastic. If you go to each of the websites, you can download them on demand and have a listen. Great music, great chats, always a good time. I should probably thank the good old Stevie Jacobs from Just Kidding for having me on there yesterday. I imagine that guy spent a lot of time in the toilets at the Tote, as he said. What a great guy. Thanks for having me. Tomorrow we're going to have a really huge announcement. It's going to be massive. It's madder than what the madness already is, but it's going to help us save the Tote for the future of live music in Melbourne. So at the moment, we've raised over $130,000 in under 72 hours. Which means we've only got a little bit more to go. So if you jump online and you hit the possible campaign, we'll be able to get the money.
You all know this fucking song, so go fucking sick. It's the last time you'll hear it. Dankeschön. dedicated to Benjamin Stewart Watson, Christian Grant Wilson, and Sam, I don't know your middle name, the murder. They are fucking warped! Oh yeah! Well, hey Benny, you wanna fucking do it? Yeah, let's fucking do it! Hey, yeah! Yeah, someone up again! Oh yeah, baby! Yeah! Yeah! Someone up again! Oh yeah, baby!
Welcome to the Riff Crew. I'm your host, Steve Mitchell, back for another big episode here in the realm. And joining me, as always, is the great man himself, Skull. How you doing, mate?
Hey, greetings, ladies and gentlemen in Cyberland. As you know, this is Skull broadcasting from the past, present, and future in the Chamber of the Cosmos. Here with my good friend Steve Oz from Ozland. I'm an off-again, on-again DC bomb rock band, Black Manta. I've been in the scene for over 30 years. I know people from all over the scene, as usual. Really excited to be here, and very honored to have a special guest here today, Bouchard, former member and drummer of BOC, and he also happens to have his own special guest, Susie. And so I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later. But I feel like I'm having a little bit of deja vu here because we just interviewed your brother a few months back, and we're like, it would be great to have the brothers on here, both of you eventually. So it's great to have you on here, man.
Very cool. Thank you. Glad to be here.
We were talking with your brother, and Susie, you can chime in at any time. We'll get to talking about new music and stuff like that, but you and your brother went on like a little tour, Bouchard Brothers tour, and you worked on that album with him. And I mean, I know you're one of the hardest working guys in rock and roll. You're always working on something. So I'm sure I know you're working on something, but I was you can tell us about what you're working on right now, but then later on I was going to ask you about the Dictators, because I know that there's still some rumors going on about that.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, lots of things going on. Well, so you of course I did the Blue Öyster Cult thing, and then after that I actually got out of the music business for a little while. I kind of semi-retired. I became a music teacher, in a public school in New York City, public high school, and I did that for 31 years. Of course, while I was teaching, I was slowly getting back into the business, and had a little band with one of the other teachers and my ex-wife and a succession of guitar players, and called the Brain Surgeons. And so, and then after, when that thing fell apart, I had a band with my brother and Dennis Dunaway, which is still ongoing, the Blue Coupe.
Right.
Dennis Dunaway from Alice Cooper. So, Blue Öyster Cult, Alice Cooper, Blue Coupe. So we have been together now for, I think, almost 14 years. I think it's just 14 years that we've been together. And we're just about to put out our 4th album. This is kind of an album. Well, that band, we were just basically, we got a few gigs to play our hits, and so we did I think 3 or 4 gigs, and we said, you know what, we need really, somebody like us, a great musician in a famous band that is underappreciated. Who could that be? And they were like, Robbie Krieger. So I called up Robbie because, we've been friends since I did this album, Imaginos. And back in I recorded Robbie Krieger in 1983. Mm-hmm. And so in California. And so I've known him since then. I've had his number, and I call him up now and then and talk to him about stuff. So anyway, I called him and said, we want you to play some gigs with us. We got some nice gigs, making good money. And he's like, oh, I can't really do that. I had heard from a mutual friend that, Ray Manzarek was not well, and so Robbie didn't have a band anymore. And so he said, oh, no, Ray wants to play. He doesn't care that he's got cancer. He's going to play. So I can't really play with you. I can't play these gigs with you. But I would love to make another record with you. I loved what we did on Imaginos, and it'd be great to do some more work together. So he ended up playing on our very first record, and he's also playing on this new record. So, and we actually are doing one of his songs on a song that's never been heard. So I got to sing it.
That's pretty legendary to have him on, to be.
Yeah. So that's the news from the Blue Coupe front. Last year I played with Blue Öyster Cult, and we did 3 shows in New York City that were taped and videotaped and recorded.
Oh, shit, I missed that. I didn't hear about it.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Well, you couldn't have got in. It was sold out 3 nights.
Sure.
At Sony Hall, but that's a very they have a lot of technology there. So they videotaped it. They multi-track recording. It's going to be around
come out
at some point.
Wow.
The band, those guys worked really hard last year, and they're kind of going on a little hiatus right now. They're playing some gigs, but very few gigs this year. Richie Castellano, their boy wonder, he's got his own band that is backing up John Anderson and doing Yes songs, and they've got a tour.
Oh, the Band of Geeks.
Yeah, Band of Geeks. Band Geeks. Yeah. So they're taking their time with that. But I'm also I wrapped up a solo record. It's actually it's my 3rd solo record on Deco Entertainment. Deco is my record. I haven't had a record company since I left BOC. So this is the first time I've had a real record company. And they put out Reimaginos, which was a re-recording of the original Imaginos.
Right.
And then the next year they did Imaginos 2, Bombs Over Germany. That was in 2021. And now in 2023, Imaginos 3, Mutant Reformation, the last one of the series, is coming out. So
nice.
And that's the one Susie is singing.
I was going to ask you about that, but you're reading my mind. So
yeah. So Susie is singing on that. I knew her when she was a teenager, but we were just friends, really, nothing that serious. But when I was working on Imaginos, when I went out to record Robbie Krieger, I called her up and asked her to go out with me, and so she said yes. And so for a couple of years there, we went out together. While every time I would go to California to do some work on Imaginos, I would call her up. And one time she came to New York with me, and
it was a fun trip.
Yeah. So and so we just went out. We were friends, and we had a lot to talk about, and we thought we thought each other were cute.
We're both under 5'3".
Yeah. She's the right size for me.
I'm just about 5 foot.
Yeah. So we fit nicely, and so but then. The Imaginos thing kind of was taken out of my hands, and Susie, she ended up marrying this other guy, and so that was the end of that. But you always think it's the end, but then here we are.
You're talking about in the early '80s.
Yes.
Oh, so
yes.
you met back then. It's gone full circle then.
Yeah.
I think I met him in 1977 when I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that, she would come to the show, her and her girlfriends, they would all come and run around and drive the guys crazy.
Sure. So it's a bit of a happy ending here.
Yeah. So we got back together last year, and I didn't even know that she could sing. She was at my house and she was in the shower taking a shower, and she's singing away, and I'm like, wow. She comes out and I said, you've got a great voice. Hey, you want to sing some harmonies with me? And so I had her sing on this one song, and it
No, I didn't. It's been a real challenge.
Yeah. So, but she did an amazing job. I mean, without really much guidance from me. It was a song where, it's a cover of another Blue Öyster Cult song. I'm not going to give it away, but it's a famous Blue Öyster Cult song. And of course, the idea is that this is a project that Sandy Perlman conceptualized, and he was telling me about Imaginos. He told me about this in 1967 when I met him. That's how far back it goes. So
I had never been recorded before. I never thought I was very good. I still question, and
yeah, but truth is in the pudding. When you go
studio technology.
Yeah, good thing it's not all auto tuning like I hear some of these singers are doing nowadays.
Yeah, well, we took our time doing it. Some of the songs we had to do over and over again. I mean, like over the course of a month, we'd tackle it one day and that's it, and then listen to it and go, nah, that's not it.
Right.
That's it. Maybe. And she, so she hasn't had any formal musical training. Well, other than singing in the choir in school and stuff, and she can read music, but she's never been in a band. So, but she comes from a very musical family, so it all makes sense to me. I didn't quite know this at the time, but her father was a band leader and had a band, like an army band. Was he in the army?
Yeah, he was in the Army Air Corps.
Yeah.
He had an Air Force band that traveled around Morocco and Egypt, entertaining the troops.
Right, and he was a professional musician for his whole life, and his wife was a singer and a piano player as well. And
my grandmother was a violinist in vaudeville.
So
and my oldest brother was a rock and roller and a concert pianist.
So it's in your DNA then. It's in your blood.
It is. I mean, she just like, so we'll be working on this thing and she'll go, you know, this rhythm is like throwing me off, you know, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should straighten it out a little bit, you know. So it worked out really well. I mean, all her suggestions were excellent, and so she really was more than just a
girl off the street.
Or an ordinary girlfriend. She
right.
She really pulls. She is a team player and pulls her weight. As a matter of fact, so you asked about the Dictators. The Dictators were working on a new Dictators record as we speak. And we're hoping to get it out this year. It might not come out. We don't know yet because we still have 3 to 5 songs. We have 3 original songs that we still have yet to record, and we have 2 cover songs that we played. We did a little tour of Canada.
Okay.
And I guess
November.
Yeah.
It was in
November. And so in the beginning of November. So, and Susie came with me, and of course she couldn't just be the girlfriend. She had to like, come on, Al, put me to work. And I said, well, there is one thing that I hate more than anything else on doing gigs, and that is breaking down the drums at the end of the night, because I'll be taking the cymbal apart and putting the things in the cases, and somebody will be, hey, can you sign my drumstick that you just gave me? And I'm like, I can, but
gotta get this done.
If I don't, especially I'm a little older now, so, and it's not a matter of whether I can carry the stuff and if it's too heavy. I mean, there's always somebody that's going to carry stuff, but when I'm putting things away, if I don't,
it's a process.
Focus, I'm going to donate something to the club. Some crucial piece of gear is going to be missing. So I can't take the time. So I said, well, how would you like to be my drum tech? She said, I'd love to do it. Show me how to do it. So the first gig, she basically shadowed me and saw what I did. And then then when it came time to tear down at the end of the night, I stayed with her and I watched her do it and said, no, not that, do that, you know. And so she learned that very first gig how to set up and tear down the drums. So after that, she did that, you know, for the other 4 gigs that we did.
I always wanted a job backstage. I didn't like being a groupie, you know, so it was really nice to be useful.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you because I just so happened to be at the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame there in Jersey. A year and a half ago. I was in the audience.
Wow.
And so I got to see that the mini Dictators set. I was there in real life, and it was really cool. It was acoustic. Yeah. But it was the loudest and heaviest acoustic show I'd ever seen. I don't know if they did that because there was some kind of sonic restrictions on you guys. I don't know why they made it acoustic, but it was heavy and
actually
rocking.
Andy wanted to do that. Andy was like, I'd really like to hear what the Dictator, you know, all these groups went acoustic. I'd like to hear what the Dictators sound like acoustic. So,
well,
and
it was heavy as shit.
He wanted to do house concerts. I'm like, okay, well, maybe, you know, I wasn't thrilled about it. I was like, I joined the Dictators to be a dictator.
That's right.
But yeah, I'm glad it came off heavy. That's cool. Very cool. have 2 tours booked. Well, one, I don't know if I should talk about it. It's a California tour. It's supporting another group. I haven't gotten any confirmation that it's actually happening, so I'm not going to say, but that would be in May. And then we also have, this has been confirmed, a Spanish tour where we're doing 10 shows in 10 days in Spain, and that starts September 23rd and ends October something.
That they're talking
we
about.
have to come to the
more
DC
dates.
area. What's that?
We haven't done that, but there is also, the thing is that Susie and I, and my solo record is coming out June 2nd. And so we are planning on playing DC. We have a gig in New York City in July, and so we want to do some gigs before that. We'll probably go to DC, we'll go to Boston, we'll go to,
Philadelphia, maybe.
yeah, and the driving distance from New York City, which DC would probably be the end of it, and we maybe go up to Maine, maybe go to Ohio, but that's about it, So we're doing that, and then and we don't know what's going to happen after that, but that's in June and July. So we'll be doing that.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that one of the songs, I think the couple of songs I was familiar with in that mini set, you guys played like 4 songs, but I think the first song you played was a song called Pussy and Money. And I was like, wow, that'll really grab your attention. Everybody was like, I never heard it before. I think it might have been like on a later album, but I was like, wow, that's how you grab people's attention with a song like that. It's like right out of the gate.
Okay. I thought it was maybe not the best in this Me Too era, that it's not the best. It might be slightly misogynistic, but
Slightly.
It was written by David Roeder, who did he did Joan Crawford, who's risen from the grave for BOC and Unknown Tongue, all of these kind of like BOC, but with a tongue firmly planted in cheek. So yeah.
Well, it was cool and it was heavy, and it definitely caught your attention.
Yeah.
A couple of the albums I wanted to ask you about were, I know that you're working on a project with Michael Moorcock, and and there's the first 2 have dropped. But is it a trilogy, or are you working on a third one?
Yeah, third one is now. So the first 2, see, the guy who's generating this thing, he's the guy in charge of the whole project. It's called Spirits Burning, and it's like a collaborative venture with me and guys from BOC, guys from Hawkwind, guys from Can, all the kind of a prog rockish,
psychedelic,
psychedelic, camper van Beethoven, all these groups. So they're usually like 40, 50 people on every record. So anyway, he put out the 3rd volume, but he had to cut it in half because it was too many. It was 26, 27 songs. So it didn't fit on one disc. So he decided to do the first half. It's all based upon Michael Moorcock's Dancers at the End of Time trilogy. It was 3 books. An Alien Heat, The Hollow Lands, and The End of Everything. So that we're working on this part 2 of the third act, the 3rd book. So that's and that's coming along well. It's actually I think there's maybe 4 or 5 songs to do yet, but I even got Susie on that record too.
Awesome. So, I'm a huge Michael Moorcock fan, and my friend, his name is Jim Blakeman. He has a publishing company called Dreaming City Books, and we worked on an Elric book that was like basically captured everything, Elric the games and music that was influenced by him. And Jim is friends with Michael Moorcock, so it's kind of cool to have I grew a childhood hero, literary hero of mine. So
Yeah.
Ulrich's Horde and is a book that I was able to collaborate on. That was super cool.
Yeah, yeah,
So
he's a brilliant writer. I really like all of his stuff. I Eric Bloom actually turned me on to that, and it's the Elric series specifically. He was
sure.
really loved the Elric series, and then Michael Moorcock ended up writing songs for Blue Öyster Cult too. So yeah, so we go way back, and when Don Falcone, who's this guy who's in charge of the whole thing, Spirits Burning, he contacted me and said I'd done a couple records with him, just a track for a compilation record or something, just a little, I wouldn't spend a lot of time on it, maybe an afternoon I'd send him a track with some stuff and he would put all these other people on it. But this was like I got deeply involved in it where I was working on almost every song on the record. And so that's how it's been, especially, I'm so honored to be working with Michael Moorcock, somebody like that.
Sure.
I mean, that's how you do great things is by hanging out with great people,
That's right, man. Well, I wanted to ask you, that's funny you mentioned that those three BOC shows, because they just came out with that album a couple years back. Seems like yesterday, and and I know you guys did like that reunion London thing a few years back. I mean, is there any talk of you guys ever doing one last album, one last tour, anything like that?
There is, I don't know if I should, there is some talk. There is talk about not just that, but yeah, about not just the tour, but about an album and stuff like that.
Why
But
not, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, I think that they're taking a well-deserved break right now. So, and I think they just don't want to, it's like, yes, when I did those three shows, I know Donald and Eric both expressed to me that, we got to do some more stuff together, man. I mean, even if it's not, not, even if it's outside of Blue Öyster Cult. As a matter of fact, my record, the last record had Eric and Don both were on it, the Bombs Over Germany record. And then this new one, Written Reformation, Eric plays a big part. Richie Castellano, I wrote a song, he's singing it. I have a song I worked on with Kazim Sultan when he was in Blue Öyster Cult. So a lot of, my brother Joe sings on it. I'm taking after Don Falcone. This record has 39 people on it.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of olive branches going on, which is good.
Yeah. Oh, very nice. Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I did want to kind of take it back and kind of go back to the beginning because I'm a massive BOC fan now. Unfortunately, I'm on the young side, so I've never had a chance to see you with them but I did want to kind of go back to the beginning and kind of start. I wanted to show an artifact that I have in the Chamber of the Cosmos here. I don't know if you've ever seen this album before. It's called Guitar Boogie, and it has Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page. And I've had this record for about 20 years. And when I first got it, I loved to read the liner notes, like the notes on the back of the album. And I noticed that it was written by R. Meltzer, and I was like, is that the same Meltzer, Randy Meltzer?
Oh, yeah.
And then I started reading it, and then because he's talking about Clapton's influence and Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page, and then he starts talking about this gig at the Fillmore East where a band called the Soft White Underbelly opened up for Jeff Beck and Jethro Tull. And I was like, I know that band. It's pre-Blue Öyster Cult. And it's actually, in writing. It just blew my mind that I stumbled across this. I don't know if you've ever seen this before, knew it was on this album, but the fact that he snuck it on there and that it's, because you guys were kind of I think you guys were getting a lot of buzz at the time and you guys were getting ready to break. And it was just cool that he talks about how you guys opened up for this show on 4th of July. You opened up for the Jeff Beck group. and Jethro Tull. So I just thought that was a neat little artifact to run by you. I wasn't sure if you'd ever seen that before or not.
I don't think I did. I mean, we felt like that show was the end. We thought that was we're done now.
The soft
Well, he didn't really go into, but he did use the term ill-fated. What is he talking
Oh
about?
my God. Yeah. It was Eric Bloom's second show with the band. And so I don't know how well he knew the songs, but we were all like, it was the most people we'd ever played to. And we were kind of a mess. We knew it sounded bad, and we didn't know why it sounded bad, but it sounded bad. And the next day there was a couple articles in the newspaper that mentioned how bad we were.
Oh, so it was a learning experience.
Yes. If we never played that gig, we might still be called Soft White Underbelly. Let's put it that way.
Oh, wow. I got you.
That's why we changed our name.
And after you happened to change your name to this band.
Yeah, that was the interim name. Yeah.
Is Jeff
The
on
Stock
there?
Forest Group. This is a pretty rare album, as the viewers out there might guess. All the pre-Blue Öyster Cult stuff, like Soft White Underbelly. You even went by Oaxaca or something like that for like
Oaxaca,
a second.
yeah.
Oaxaca.
Yeah.
Stock Forest Group. It was just about Sandy Pearlman trying to get the name out there to keep pushing you guys. So God bless him for that. But this album is incredible. It's a very kind of West Coast psyche, some Doorsy type vibe to it. Even a little bit of Dead vibe, like West Coast vibe on here.
Oh yeah, definitely. We were a psychedelic. The Soft White Underbelly was a psychedelic band, and we emulated. We were somewhere in between Cream and the Grateful Dead.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's very cool.
Yeah.
But during that time, I did happen to notice, I did watch another video interview with you recently, and you talked extensively about the time in the late 60s in New York when you guys were trying to, building your name and, building up your repertoire and your experience and all that, and how you used to go see Jimi Hendrix and all these amazing bands. Can you talk about that a little bit? I don't even play the guitar, but he's a huge influence on me as a person and one of my musical heroes. I love Jimi Hendrix, so I'd love if you have any stories to offer about that from back then.
Sure. Well, I'll give you a little extended version. So I grew up in upstate New York. About 350 miles from New York City. It was basically a farming community, very small community. When I went to college, I started hanging out with Don Roser, who, as people know, is Buck Dharma. And we had a college band. We did very well in college. Well, not at first. First we were terrible, and then we were great. So kind of same thing that happened with the Soft White Underbelly. We were terrible, and then we were great. So, but that's another thing. And I'm going to digress. So I was a teacher for all these years. And when I used to tell kids, they would get so upset when they make mistakes. And I'd say, no, mistakes are an opportunity. It's a learning opportunity. That's the only way you can get to be great. If you never make a mistake, you'll never be great. Okay, sure. Because when you make a mistake, you're pushing yourself. You're pushing yourself to be better, and so, I started coming down to the city and going to the Cafe Go-Go or to the Village Gate or these clubs in the village and seeing like the real, my idols, people that I love their music, Muddy Waters and there was a band called the Blues Project that I thought was fantastic. They had Al Cooper, who was played with Bob Dylan, and he also played with well, he would play. He wrote this song called "This Diamond Ring," which was a big hit, and that was a song that I played in my high school band. So but I came down to New York City.
Are you talking about it 66, 67?
That was 66, 67. We were visiting New York City. We'd come down on the weekend, have a long weekend, break dawn, you drive back to the college, and we wouldn't even stay. We would drive down 7 hours, and then we would drive back 7 hours or 6 hours, in the middle of the night, So, but when the band became successful, Donald, myself, and one other guy, Jeff Latham, we all decided we were going to drop out of college and become professional musicians. So we tried to get jobs. We couldn't get jobs. We ended up going back to our homes. And then Jeff Latham called me from Chicago and said, I'm in a band and they need a drummer. And I told them how good you are and they want to fly you out to play in the band. So I flew to Chicago. I played in the band with Jeff Latham. And then after I was in the band for like 3 weeks, they broke up.
What band was that?
They were called Boffo, Boffo.
Boffo, okay.
Yeah, it was a trio. It was like Jeff playing guitar, this guy who played piano and piano bass, and me on drums. Sort of like the Doors, except the piano player sang too. So it was a good band, but the piano player, he would say weird things like, if I get a big advance, I'm gonna skip town and open up a hardware store somewhere. And we got a big advance, and he disappeared.
That's the un-rock and roll as you can get, right?
Yeah. I thought it was weird that he would say that, because for me, that was my dream to hear my song on the radio and to have some small amount of success as a musician. More than where I came from. Musicians, they had other jobs. They weren't full-time musicians. Nobody, they had a job as a plumber or as a real estate agent, or real estate seemed to be good for musicians because they can make some money and yet and not keep regular hours or whatever.
Sure. Well, so what?
Not to denigrate the real estate industry.
So were you turned on to Jimmy and the whole Greenwich scene before he exploded, or?
So that band broke up, and I ended up coming to New York City because Don had told me that I met this guy, Sandy Perlman, who says he's going to make me a star. He writes for Crawdaddy, and he's writing for this new magazine called Rolling Stone, and and he has lots of friends and lots of connections. And I said, well, I'm not going back upstate, that's for sure. So I came to New York City, and within 6 months, I'd met. I became very good friends with Richie Havens, and I was friends with him till he died. So close friend. And then I also met Muddy Waters. I met B.B. King. I met James Cotton. I met Little Richard. I met Chuck Berry. I played in Chuck Berry's band. I met Al Cooper, and I played with played in a show with Blood, Sweat, and Tears. I met everybody. It was just like fantastic. All of these people, and this was within 6 months. I met Jeff Beck. I met Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, I met Sly and the Family Stone. They came to this club where we were playing. I met Keith Moon. I met Ringo. Yeah. I could go on. It was amazing to me. And I really had not much confidence in myself. I was like, I'm just a farm boy, from upstate New York. But
you should write a book.
Oh yeah, well, I have lots. I mean, Susie and I, we both between the two of us, we have many books worth. I mean, when I met her, her reputation was she was Keith Moon's girlfriend.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, but she was only like 16, 17 years old, so it was like,
You got to be a wild chick to be hanging out with Keith Moon, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, the story is pretty wild. I mean, it was kind of random, and but I mean, she's a lady now, but
Well, it was
she
a different time back then, for
she
sure.
was quite a looker, I'll tell you. So, I mean, she caught my attention, but
Right.
but when I met her, I was married, so it was for me, it was that. I wasn't like
Sure.
that. I was
But so Jimmy, did you happen to know about him before he blew up, or was it like all
Yeah.
happening at the same
Oh no,
time?
no, I didn't know Jimmy James or any of that. I didn't. I that he was doing that when I was going there in 1966. I believe that he was playing the Cafe Wah, but I never went to the Cafe Wah, so I never saw him. I did see and meet King Curtis. Now, if you'll recall,
That was his side man. Jimmy was his side man.
that's right. That's right. So I did not meet the guitar player, so I didn't meet him then. And I didn't, but King Curtis band was like, whoa. I'd never seen such high. Bernard Purdy on the drums. I mean, come on. He just blew me away. I'd never seen a drummer play like that. It was like
Right.
crazy how good he was. Yeah, nobody upstate. No, no, no. I mean, so for me, it was a challenge. I'd seen Bernard Purdy. I'd seen Carmine Appice.
I was going to mention Vanilla Fudge. Yeah.
Yeah, I met Carmine, back in those days, and I was like, I can never get close to that. I mean, that's what you think, as
Well,
a kid.
he was setting the bar. Carmine
Yeah.
was like, yeah, he was pushing the
Yeah.
bar, the limit.
Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for Carmine, there would be no John Bonham. Let's face it. I mean,
As the story goes, oh yeah.
those licks that John Bonham is playing are Carmine's licks, but Bonham played them with just a little more sauce.
Sure. So you
Yeah.
actually, but you got to see Jimmy. Did you ever get to jam with him, or did you just get to see him a
No.
couple of times?
Okay, I don't have many regrets, and I think that I always wanted to be a little bit more of an extrovert. I wanted to be able to go up and talk to anybody and say anything, and I couldn't until I started doing coke, and then I said I don't like that person. I don't like that person that just goes up and says anything to anybody. So
All right.
I went back to being who I am. It's a little bit reserved, but so what happened was we were playing at Steve Paul's scene on 44th Street in New York City in Manhattan, and the first thing that happens is Ringo comes in with a whole entourage, a bunch of people with Ringo. And I'm like, oh my God, Ringo's over there, oh my God, I gotta go over and talk to him now. And so the next thing happens, we're still playing the gig, and Jimi Hendrix walks in. He sits on the other side of the club. And so after the set, Teddy Slatus, the house manager, comes up to me and says, Albert, Jeremy Steig, the flute player, is here, and Jimmy wants to jam with him, and you should tell Ringo that it's okay for him to play your drum kit. I said, oh, okay. So I go over to Ringo and I say, hey, Ringo, Albert, pleased to meet you, blah, 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 big fan. Listen, I hear that Jimi Hendrix wants to jam with Jeremy Steig over there. And if you want to play my drums, I'd be honored to let you do that. And he said, oh, no. I think I'm just going to be an observer tonight. So I said, okay. So I went back to Teddy. I said, he doesn't want to play. He said, okay, that's okay. And I'm like, then it's not until later that I realized that he's looking for another drummer. He's like, he's getting tired of Mitch Mitchell. He's, 2 weeks later we were playing there, and Jimmy comes in with what's his name, Buddy Miles.
The Band of Gypsies, yeah.
Band of Gypsies, but if I had more balls and went, hey Jimmy, Ringo doesn't want to play, but I'll play.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, it's an amazing, of course,
an opportunity that.
Yeah, a fleeting opportunity, but an amazing.
Yeah, it just missed me. Yeah,
but you did get to see him perform and play, because I mean, obviously, I never, just to be able to talk to someone that actually saw him play, like his wizardry, his amazing guitar wizardry, and his performance.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it like seeing him play?
He was so cool on stage. I mean, first of all, they had gigantic hands, so
right.
He never did a bar chord. Never. It was always thumb over. Always played thumb over. And sometimes he'd play upside down like this.
Right.
So he was amazing. Well, I like this actually, because he was playing left-handed too.
Right.
So, but he was just so cool. The way he sang, it was like very casual. And
but actually, watching him play, what was it like trying to process? Because he was doing stuff that no one could even fathom could be done on a guitar. I mean, what was it? I mean, do you remember like what it was like seeing him perform? Or
well, he played with a lot of energy. I think the riffs that he did, they were kind of like R&B riffs, like Steve Cropper would play, except with a, just like a fullness and kind of like a swagger that none of those other guys, the Booker T's group, they didn't really have that. They were more like technicians,
Right. I'm just thinking more of like his solo. His solos are just so out of this world and so bleak and just so like, I don't know, just otherworldly. The guy, his talent was like otherworldly.
Unbelievable. It was unbelievable to watch. It was extremely exciting. I think, I mean, it was right up there with the, but I mean, there was a lot of talented. I mean, I saw the Who like 5 times.
Sure.
I was obsessed with the Who. They were so exciting. They made you want to jump off your seat. Yeah. So Jimi Hendrix was trying to compete with the Who, and doing a pretty good job.
Did you ever meet the Doors guys back then, like Jim Morrison?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I neglected to mention I met the Doors. I think that was like the first week that I was in New York. And they played at Stony Brook, and Sandy Pearlman introduced me. Well, there was 2 limos, one for Jim Morrison and then one for the rest of the band. So the Jim Morrison limo didn't stop, but the other one did. And Sandy came and he introduced me to Ray and Robbie and John. So that's when I met Ray and Robbie and John.
Oh, you never got to meet Jim. He was in his own limo.
Never got to meet him. Nope.
Doing his own rock star thing.
Yeah.
But you got to see him perform.
Oh, yeah. I saw the Doors like, I think 4 times.
I bet that was a
fantastic group. But I thought that the weak link was the singer. I didn't think he was that good.
If he heard that, he probably would get a laugh out of that.
Yeah, I still think he wasn't that good. He was riding on their coattails. They were a fantastic group. Especially Ray and Robbie. But even John, John brought this kind of jazzy feel to it that, made it.
Oh, yeah, he's an amazing drummer.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, like, so back then, who was your favorite band? So I guess it was the Who then at the time.
I would say when I saw the Who, they became my favorite band, for many, many years, I mean, as a young child, I wanted to play the drums from when I was 3, and the drummer that I liked, the most was this guy that my mother had all these Benny Goodman records, and of course Benny Goodman's drummer was Gene Krupa. So that was my first drummer.
Right.
And I still quote him. I mean, every gig I quote him at least once. Do a Gene Krupa quote.
Gene Krupa quote.
Yep. But I like, my favorite drummers were usually jazz drummers like Joe Morello or what's his name, Sonny Payne, or what's the guy? It was a guy I knew too.
Was that Max Roach?
No, I never met Max Roach, and I didn't really appreciate him until later. But there was a guy I knew, and now I can't remember. It was I met him at Frank's drum shop, and he told me to buy this cymbal. He said, "This is a really unique cymbal, and nobody's using it in rock." And so I bought it, and the next day I went into the studio and recorded "Don't Fear the Reaper" with that same cymbal. So.
We're gonna get to that story in a little while. Like, so who was your favorite drummer at the time? Because all the jazz guys are talking about, Keith Moon and Bonham and Vinny Appice, all those guys were influenced by the jazz guys, and even Bill Ward from Sabbath, who we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
They were all influenced by them, but at the time, and Mitch Mitchell, of course. I mean, the list goes on, but so who was like your favorite rock drummer at the time? Was it Keith Moon?
at that point, but don't forget, I started playing in a band with my brother Joe when he was 10 and I was 12. And we imitated all these, we played the Motown songs, we played the Beach Boys, all the West Coast songs. So I didn't realize it at the time, but so the first early rock influences were actually Hal Blaine and Benny Benjamin, from Motown and the Wrecking Crew.
Okay, they're like this session
Funk
guys.
Brothers and the Wrecking Crew. Those are the guys. Those two guys in particular. There was what's his name, Palmer. I can't remember his name.
Carl Palmer.
No. He played with Little Richard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Carl
Well,
Palmer's the only one to know.
Yeah. And then when I started getting, like, even before I ever saw the Who, because I didn't think that they didn't impress me that much. I didn't really understand how great Keith Moon was until I saw him play live, and then I was like, this guy is insane. He's like, he would bounce the sticks off the tom-tom and then just sit there and wait to catch it. It's like, whoa.
I mean, his ability was off the charts too. One of my friends actually said that Keith Moon plays the drums like a guitar, and I always thought that was really interesting. There's no hi-hat.
He was very orchestral.
Yeah, there's no hi-hat. There's no hi-hat. It's all cymbals.
Yeah. And all like crash and stuff like that. Or, he would ride on the tom-toms of the, like, Happy Jack. How about that song? Remember that?
It's a monster of a
Happy
song.
Jack. Yeah, that's that kind of stuff. Wow, man.
That double bass work.
Yeah, but I loved a guy named Francis Clay, who played with Muddy Waters and also B.B. King. He played on The Thrill Is Gone. And Bernard Purdie, of course. I was a total King Curtis freak. I had all his records, still do. So I loved all those guys. I think that, when I became a teenager, I sort of, my interest expanded from the drums and into vocals and guitar players and piano players and stuff like that. People that are amazing.
Do you remember when? Because I know that when everything started to smooth out and you guys were getting better and more recognized, and finally you guys got a record deal, and I know Sandy was trying to push you guys or as like the American Black Sabbath or something, that was.
Yeah, that wasn't really Sandy's idea. That was Murray Krugman, and that he had floated that idea to Clive Davis and some of the people at Columbia, and they liked the idea. Right.
Did you ever? Because I've talked to your brother, and he said that he did go see Sabbath one time. Sandy or one of the guys pulled him aside and was like, "Hey, Black Sabbath is playing here in New York. Do you want to go check them out?" And he said, of course, that it was a small club. They were just starting to get some buzz. It was like 70 or 71. And I just wondered if you ever saw them back then, what you thought about Bill Ward as a drummer, Iommi, and any of your thoughts on that.
I never saw them at that time. I think I wasn't there when Joe saw them, but and I don't remember him being a big fan. But I know that I'd gotten married in May of 1970, and to this girl Denise, and her younger brother Jeff, he had 2 Black Sabbath records, and we had a band house, and then when everybody started getting married, my brother Joe got married, Don got married, I got married, and so we got rid of the band house, and so I didn't have any place to practice, so I was staying with Denise's parents in their house, and so I would play the drums to the Black Sabbath records, and I thought, wow, this is really fun to play along with. First of all, I didn't get lost in the beat that much. It was the songs were so slow and so simple that it was very easy to follow what was going to happen, easier than a pop song. So I really liked the Black Sabbath sound. I wasn't, I didn't think I was going to be doing it, but then when this idea came up that we'd be the answer to that, I was the one that was like, oh, I know a lot of their songs. I can
Cool.
play them on the drums and guitar. So
Well, you're talking about Paranoid then.
Yeah, Paranoid and The Wizard, and I don't know.
The first one,
Yeah, all of this, all of these songs. I put the record on and I just play along with the whole thing, and then I flip it over and play the next, and so it was great to practice to. So,
Sure.
so I was the one that was really, oh yeah, we should do this,
But you were on board from day one. That's very cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to fast forward a little bit to to the punk scene, because I know that along with the Dictators, New York was a hot scene at the time, and I'm sure that Susie will remember too. That, of course, New York's always been happening and hot, but there's like the Ramones was going on and the Dictators and all that. And even a little bit, and the reason I bring that up is because you guys do a cover of MC5 on Some Enchanted Evening, which is kind of proto punk, and so you seem to be on board with the emerging heavy sound, the proto punk sound, and you were hip to that from the very beginning, which is very cool, man. I think that's very cool. So I just wanted your thoughts on the whole punk scene and your thoughts on Motorhead and the Sex Pistols and all that.
Well, I thought the Sex Pistols were kind of okay, but I didn't think they were nearly as good as the Ramones or even the Dictators. The Ramones I saw in the very early days in CBGBs and was like, whoa, these guys are they're like a machine. They were like just a brick wall, of sound. It was amazing. I loved the Ramones. And the Dictators, of course, I knew those guys, and I thought that they were extremely clever and fun. And, Ross the Boss is just he is wild, man.
We actually did an interview with him a few months back. He's a super cool guy.
Yeah, he is cool. He's a great guy, really wonderful, got a beautiful heart, and extremely talented. I thought the Sex Pistols were okay. I thought the New York Dolls, they were interesting, but they were taking that glam thing, and I thought, oh, this seems so fake. I didn't know. I guess maybe this is something that needs to happen, but I wish that their music was a little bit more groundbreaking. I felt like the Ramones were groundbreaking, the Dictators groundbreaking, doing stuff that nobody had ever done. And to me, that's what I always like. I like the second wave of punk, the hardcore and, the Minutemen and the Black Flag and all of that kind of stuff too,
Cool.
So.
Minor Threat here from DC.
Yeah, Minor Threat, all of that. Dropkick Murphys, there was a lot of great groups back then. But and I like hip hop. I'm not gonna lie, especially the early hip hop was fantastic. KRS-One, Run DMC, LL Cool
The
J.
early stuff, yeah.
Stuff is amazing. Still, to me, it still holds up. I think that there are certain things that I don't like, but I think there's only two kinds of music: good music and bad music. And
Sure.
people that play with passion and intelligence. I always like that. Sometimes I think that we just watched a couple of days ago. We watched the Rick James documentary, and Rick James was a fantastic musician. Fantastic. You listen to his stuff, even the stuff that nobody ever paid any attention to. Way before Super Freak. He was fantastic, fantastic musician, but he got a little bit too much into playing the part.
And the drugs.
Yeah.
He couldn't break character. He was like that all the time.
Yeah.
You can't live like that. It'll kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And so, yeah, it was a sad story, really. But, so some of these punk guys, I think, took it a little too seriously and
Oh, like Sid.
paid more attention to the lifestyle than the music,
Yeah. What about Kiss? I mean, they came out of that whole scene. The BOC toured with them a lot, didn't they?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to say anything bad about them, but, I was never that impressed with it. I
Right.
like the drummer, and of course, he was a nice guy, so they had to fire him.
Sure.
Wasn't enough of a prick, I suppose.
The whole image, and they definitely stripped rock and roll down to its barest element.
Yeah, I think the Ramones did a much better job of stripping things
Oh
down.
yeah.
And the Ramones were beautiful people. They're all nice guys. I know them all. So, the Ramones were a fantastic band. And, it's kind of odd, I think that the Kiss is brilliant. They are brilliant at marketing.
Yeah, marketing.
Oh yeah.
That's what they're brilliant at. Musically, well, in the words of Gene Simmons, somebody's got to play this shit.
Yeah. Somebody's gotta play this shit.
Yeah, quoting the man himself.
Well, so what about? See, I have to bring up Rush because they're my favorite band of
Oh.
all time, and you guys used to play with them back in the '70s. Did you ever?
Yeah, love Rush. They're great guys, great band.
I've always heard that they're super nice guys.
Super nice guys. We used to jam. We would jam on our days off. We would bring their equipment to a hotel room, and we just BOC and Rush would jam. Yeah, fantastic.
Killer,
All
man.
the roadies that play, we just come up with songs, or we just make something up. Fantastic. Yeah, very creative guys and really nice. Love
All right. Well,
playing.
I have to ask one. I know that there was one tour that in the history of BOC, there's some contention about the Black and Blue tour a little bit.
Uh,
I know I love Dio. He's one of my favorite vocalists. And Joe talked about it. He touched on it a little bit about how it was just sometimes the typical shenanigans, like roadie versus roadie or manager versus manager type thing. I just wanted your thoughts on the whole Black and Blue tour.
Well, my thoughts right now are that it was an amazing opportunity that got messed up. I think in every way. I think that we were hot off Don't Fear the Reaper. We had and so we had areas that we were more popular than them. So, and Sandy is their manager, and our manager arranged to have a co-headlining thing where they would headline one day, we'd headline the next, depending upon the market. And I think that they really resented that early on we had opened a bunch of shows for Black Sabbath, back in the, when Bill Ward was in the band. And so
Right.
I think that they felt that we shouldn't have ever headlined. I think Tony was upset about that. And I think that there was something else that happened with Ronnie Dio, and I believe Wendy had something to do with it, where one of the roadies made a comment, and she made us fire, take him off the tour. So I mean,
One of your own roadies?
our roadies, yeah, said he's made some kind of comment to Ronnie Dio, and Wendy took offense to it. So she told him, if you want, she told Sandy, if you want this thing to happen, he's got to go.
So there was like some weird friction and stuff
like
going
the very first gig, So, and it was a shame because I idolized Ronnie Dio. I thought he was the best singer I've ever heard, and still do.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I wanted to go over some of the early albums. The first one, a couple of those, because you in the early days you were quite prolific as far as like songwriting credits goes. You're all over the place up until Fire of Unknown Origin, like Transmaniacom MC and Stairway to the Stars. And then I got to ask about this She's as Beautiful as a Foot. I mean, did you write the lyric? Who wrote the lyrics to that?
That was Richard Meltzer. He wrote the lyrics. It was about he was writing it about our former lead singer Les Bronstein. And
okay.
Yeah, and he was trying to get Les to sing it, and of course Les didn't want to sing it because it seemed like a sarcastic, nasty song, and Les was a real hippie, and he's like, no, this is gross. I don't want to sing this, so
Right.
And the more Les would complain about the lyrics being gross, the grosser Meltzer would make them.
That's hilarious. Well, now Cities on Flame, you've actually played at a few gigs. Are you still performing and singing that song? I know that was one of your songs back in the day that you would sing.
Yeah, still do. I don't do it that much in my solo show, but sometimes I do it. I've been doing it more lately, but yeah, that's a tough riff to play. And I had written the song with Sandy called Siren Sing Along. Same song, but different lyrics. And without that, that part there, all of that, we sort of Black Sabbath it, and put a little bit of King Crimson in there too.
Sure,
and maybe a little bit James Gang too.
Sure, why not?
James Gang, Black Sabbath,
King Crimson, mate.
Yeah, a little bit of Traffic maybe too. This Mr. Fantasy is a melody is based on that. So
it's a rock and roll stew.
Yeah, it was a big mashup.
This album too. I mean, the album covers are incredible, very psychedelic and wild. The same guy did the first two, right?
Yeah.
And
Bill Golick.
The song, the Seven Screaming Dizbusters, that when you listen to it, I mean, there was no thrash metal at the time, but there were bands that were like you guys were like experimenting with the speed and the tempo, and it had like this proto thrash, and you guys definitely were kind of proto metal along, with Sabbath and these other bands. But I just wanted to, pull that song out because it's, to me, when I first heard it, I was like, this is like kind of it's like a thrash song almost, like the tempo, the beat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny because we did play a lot of really high up tempo songs, and I think we liked it. The Blues Project did that. I always thought it was semi like church music, like from the Baptist church or Pentecostal,
Sure.
That.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. You mentioned earlier about Motorhead, and we knew Lemmy. We did a few gigs with Hawkwind when Lemmy was in it, and then
back in the day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right before he got kicked out. And so we knew that this was his new group, 1975, our first time in London, and they opened the show for us. And I remember writing in my my journal that they were terrible, just awful, and Lemmy should go back to Hawkwind because he should beg them.
Motorhead opened up for BOC in England.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's killer,
twice.
man.
And then 1976, they opened again for us, and this time they were incredible. They had a new drummer, and the drummer seemed to be playing the same beats that I was playing.
Filthy.
You know, Phil Taylor, yeah. So he, I don't know if they just decided this was the kind of thing they wanted to do, because I don't think that when Lemmy was in Hawkwind, I don't think he even listened to us. But for that one, he was listening to us because we were opening for Hawkwind. So,
well, I'm a massive Motorhead and massive Lemmy fan, so that's a really cool,
yeah. So, and Lemmy, we were friends. We were friends for a long time too. Basically.
Yeah, that's killer, man. Because I want to go back to King Curtis and go a little bit full circle here. I don't know if you know that Fast Eddie Clarke played in a King Curtis incarnation. Like in the early 70s, he was, when he moved to England, he was looking for all these hot young, people, and Fast Eddie was in a band with him on a couple of albums before he joined Motorhead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. What a small world.
Yeah, man. I'm a huge fan of Lemmy, so that's super cool, man, that you were able to basically see them from the ground up. I mean, I know that they were legendarily terrible when they first started out, but they became a legendary band later on.
Yeah, they were great.
I was just gonna go through these couple of these albums here. Of course, I have Secret Treaties. Oh, this is a comic book that I have that has BOC in it that I found one time. The Demon Hunter.
Yeah.
It mentions this. It's called The Harvester of Eyes.
Oh.
It says thanks to Buck and the boys in BOC or something like that in it.
Yeah.
And here's the live album. And let's see, Agents of Fortune.
It's funny you mention a comic book, because that's another thing that's happening is there's going to be an Imaginos comic book, hopefully when this new record comes out.
That's awesome. Who's going to be releasing that?
That's going to be on Deco Entertainment. It's going to be part of the package, probably.
It'll be coming with it, the album.
Yeah, well, it'll be, you can buy the album and and the poster and all the, how it goes,
Sure.
I don't know that the comic will be released. It'll probably be released eventually as itself, or the plan is that they're going to do all three records in comic form. So.
Well, that would be awesome. I mean,
that
that was one of the questions. We're talking about it now, so we might as well just talk about it. I know that you have been working on that for a long time, and all of these are basically written by you. All the songs are basically written by you, and I know there was a lot of weird stuff going on in the band at the time. Imagine
yes.
But it's cool that you're going back in. And you're basically being able to, bring Sandy's vision to life. That he had been working on this. It was like a concept that you guys had come up with, many years ago. Yeah. So it's awesome that you're able to do this and, bring it full circle.
Well, the thing is that when that record came out, I don't think anybody was really happy. I know I was extremely, I cried when I heard it. I thought it was so bad. And I also was very upset that they took several of the songs off and didn't put it on there. And Sandy was as well. So both of us, and we were not just upset with how it was presented, but the sales were lackluster, didn't make the charts. It was like the worst selling Blue Öyster Cult record, and so in 2015, around Christmas, Sandy Pearlman fell in a parking lot and hit his head and went into a coma. And so I was told about it, and I said, well, if he comes out of the coma, please let me know. And he did. He came out of the coma. He was conscious. He seemed to be aware of his surroundings, and he seem to be understanding what people were saying when they were talking to him. So I flew to San Francisco to see him in the hospital. And while I was there, I said, I know, we didn't, after Imaginos, we were kind of estranged, because the one thing is that I sued him. I sued him, I sued Sony, and I sued the band for a breach of contract, because it was supposed to be my record. And I only agreed that they could do it if I was going to be back in the band. And what happened later on, well, no, right then, right when I sued them is when I talked to Don, and I said, it's cool that I'm going to be back in the band. He said, who told you that? I said, Sandy did. He said, well, I never agreed to that. So Sandy never told them that I was going to be back in the band, that this was part of the deal. And this is after the record was out. So we were, I would run into him now and then. I would call him and call him and call him. And once in a while, he would call me back. So I hadn't seen him in many years. I think it was it was 2016. I saw him last in 2003. So that was, so it was over a decade, 13 years since I'd seen him. So I went to the hospital and I said, I know, you were upset with me about suing you, and I was upset about the record, and, we were all upset. And I said, I promise you this, I am going to redo that record the way that you wanted it to be done. I'm going to, every idea that I shot down, I'm going to use. And I'm going to do not just that record, I'm going to do all 3 records just the way you wanted it. So that's why you have to get better to help me do this. And unfortunately, he didn't get better. But so I was like, well, I don't know. What am I going to do? But there was a lot of, every week I would get a thing saying, are you ever going to release your version, the version of Imaginos with your vocal and Robbie Krieger on all the songs? And I'm like, I don't know, because they only used Robbie on one song, on that record. So, which I thought was a shame.
He was on most of it?
He was on like half of it. 6 songs out of the 10. So, yeah, so people were asking me about this, and I said, well, I don't own the publishing. I don't own the record. I don't own the recordings. I don't know where they are. I don't know how to do this. I had already proposed to Columbia that they let me remix it at least, and I could, do it. At least do it the way that I thought it should be done with all the extra songs, and the vocals, Joe Sarasano, Columbia had said, oh, we don't like the vocals. So I had Joe Sarasano sing on, I think 7 or 8 songs, and they still didn't want it. They still said they didn't want to put it out. So I was like, well, it can't be me, because Joe Sarasano is an amazing singer. He's like,
yeah, he's the guy on the Frankenstein song, right?
Yes. And that's
he's
the
awesome.
only one. Yeah, he is awesome. He sings a little bit of I Am the One You Warn Me Of too. They stuck him in there, for those high notes that Eric can't sing. So yeah, Joe is amazing, an amazing guy. And he sang on the Bombs Over Germany record, my last solo record, and he's singing another song on the Snoo record, doing a fantastic job. So, yeah, I have a lot of singers because, I get criticized for my voice. I don't know that, I'm that bad a singer, but I'm probably not a great singer either. I have my sound, and some people really like it, some people don't like it. So I didn't want my ego to get in the way of people enjoying this record. So I chose a lot of different singers. I think there's 18 songs on the new record, and I sing about 9 of them, 8 or
It's
9.
like the ultimate concept trilogy.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible. I haven't had a chance to check them out, but I definitely am excited to check them out.
Yeah.
Well, let me see here. I had a couple other questions. I was going to ask you, like as far because you actually wrote a lot of the songs. Do you have like a favorite track, like a favorite BOC track from back in the day that you wrote?
I'd say I got real lucky on Astronomy. That song came out so good, and I mean, I remember.
That's exactly what Joe said. He picked the same song. I wanted to see if you would pick the same song.
Yeah, no, it's a song that, and I'm not sure why, but a lot of people find it moving. Yeah, and I was just trying to fit. Joe originally wrote it, and he took out like at least half the lyrics were gone, and Sandy was not happy. He was like, "This is a good lyrics," I have in the next room. I have a suitcase full of Sandy's writings, and mostly it's 10, 12 versions of some songs, or some songs you see something in OD'd on Life ended up in Dizbusters, or something in anyway, Astronomy. There's pages and pages and pages. He worked so hard on these lyrics, and now I understand why he was upset. So I just thought that Joe's tune was really good. It was rolling around in my mind, and then I was messing around with some things, and I played this riff that I was writing, about I don't know what it was going to be about. It was going to be some sort of romantic song, right? And I thought, oh, this would work on Joe's song, So I put it in there, and I said, well, where would I go from here? Oh, and so I ended up being able to fit everything that Sandy wrote into that song. I used every single word, and
so you wrote the lyrics to Astronomy and some of the music?
No. Sandy wrote almost all the lyrics. I think Joe and I changed the word here or there, but it wasn't really changing the idea. It was just taking out a syllable or adding a syllable. I'm not sure exactly, but Sandy basically wrote all the lyrics, and then Joe wrote the first part of the song. I wrote the second half of the song. So.
Yeah, and Metallica kind of breathed new life into that, because they did a cover of it in the late 90s, and then that song got huge to a certain new audience.
Yeah, they did a wonderful version. I like it a lot.
Well, I was going to ask you, when Don't Fear the Reaper came out, did everyone know that it was there like magic in the studio? Did everyone know that this is it, or really?
Absolutely.
I've been in the studio, and sometimes sometimes you just feel it.
Right. Well, I remember hearing "Start Me Up" right after they recorded it, like the day or two later, and thinking, "Oh my God, this sucks. This is terrible." There was no vocal on it though, and it was a jam that went on for about 10 minutes. And they were stumbling all over. It sounded like they were all drunk and didn't know what they were doing, but every once in a while it would come together. And then somebody, with the miracle of editing and Jagger putting this amazing vocal on it, turned it into a hit. But that one we knew it was a hit, and I had this crazy thing that happened when I was recording the track. Take number 3, we did 4 takes. We did another one we did 1 take, and then we did a second take. There was a false start. So this was really the second full take. And I was like, at the end of the song where it goes, right, there was no lead guitar there. We were just going to fade out, right? And so when it got to the end of the singing, there was no singing either. We played it so many times. I knew, we'd be singing it in our heads while we were playing it because we couldn't make noise or be on the tape. So because we did it all in this one big room, which is a few gobos.
Was it live? Was it live in the studio?
Yeah. But
wow.
Except for vocals and the lead guitar, and of course, cowbell.
That's impressive. I never knew that. That's incredible. So it was live everyone was playing live in the studio.
Eric played the organ.
Alan
played the clavinet, Hohner clavinet. He played exactly what Donald was playing, and in the middle it went that whole thing. Alan and Donald played it exactly the same. So it almost sounds like one instrument. It's very, I've seen famous guitar players like Tom Bokovic or RJ Ronquillo, go on about how the tone of that guitar is. How do you get that? Or Rick Beato did a whole thing about how do you get that tone? And it's not just a guitar. You have to have a clavinet too.
I got you. Well, so I have to ask about the famous cowbell. I mean, it's the SNL skit made it legendary, and then the more cowbell thing. So of course I have to ask. I mean, I love cowbell. There's Mountain Mississippi Queen that's got an amazing cowbell song in it. So where did the whole cowbell thing come from?
Okay, well, this is the story as it happened, and I know that this is what happened because, it's funny how memory will play a trick on you. Like,
Sure.
Eric Bloom thought that he played the cowbell, but I don't even think he was there. He did play cowbell on other songs on other records, and usually he's the guy who would play the percussion. But at this point, if he was there, I don't know exactly how, but I know how I ended up in the studio playing this cowbell part was because David Lucas, one of the producers, there was 3 producers, and David Lucas wanted, he actually, one night when nobody was there, he went into the studio and he had Randy Brecker play a trumpet part over the guitar solo. And then he came in, the next day and he said, "Oh, you guys, what do you think of this? Isn't this amazing? I got Randy Brecker playing this amazing part." And to a man, we're like, "Oh, David, that's awful. That's just awful. You just ruined the song. Erase it right now." And so we made him erase the trumpet, even though Randy Brecker is an amazing player, but it wasn't right for the song. And so I said, "Hey, we have an extra track. I have wanted to do this since we started. I want to play a triangle in the middle part where it goes boom, 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 ding, boom, 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 ding." So I wanted to do that. And David said, "Okay, you can do that, but you got to play cowbell in the verses." I'm like, "What? Cowbell? How do you hear that? What, the drum's not steady enough?" He goes, "No, I just want to hear that quarter note pulse." I said, "Okay, you got a cowbell?" He goes, "Yeah, I got this little cowbell." So I'm playing the little cowbell. And I said, and we did it through the first verse, and I said, stop. Does this sound any good at all? And they're like, Don's like, I don't know. What do you guys think? You know, and Joe's like, nah. It doesn't need cowbell. I like the triangle, but the triangle idea. I hadn't yet got to do it, you know. So David's like, oh, you know, it's too bright. Put some gaffer tape on it, you know. So I put the tape on it. I play it again, and Don is like, well, it's better. I still don't know, you know. And Joe is like, yeah, it's better, but I said, well, what if I play it with a timpani mallet? And so we did the same thing. Third time, first verse, stop. I said, okay, was that better? And they're like, Don's like, hey, I think I like that. Joe was like, yeah, it's okay. I said, okay, let's do it. And David Lucas said, well, you know what? I want to come out and play a whirro at the end of that, you know, that. And Don said, you know, I want to play the vibra slap at the end of the you know, at the end of the guitar solo and go. So the three of us went out there and we recorded the whole thing live. So that was how it worked. That's how it came out. But, you know, when they were mixing it, I was like, Shelly Yakis was the mixer, and I'm there while, you know, he allowed the whole band to be there because we were so excited. It was like a big shot, you know. We were definitely didn't want to mess it up at any, you know, I was there for the mastering. I did not want, this was like, I was going to have a hit, like my dream of having a song on the radio. It was about to become real. So nothing was going to stop that from happening. So while they're mixing it, I'm like, Shelly, can you mix the cowbell? He said, if I make it any lower, it's going to be off. Don said, leave it like where it is. It's fine. So
well, here's the $1 million question. I always wondered this. So is it on a loop or do you really play through the whole song?
It's not a loop. We did three parts on one track. Wow. So it's all played live. The song, the tempo actually speeds up. So it's like a loop wouldn't really work. I mean, well, you could do, nowadays you could do it because you have the computer.
I mean, I just wanted to belay any theories out there that it was played all the way through in the studio from beginning to end. That's very cool.
Yeah.
And it did, of course, end up on this in the Halloween movie.
Yeah.
Oh, it made it even more famous being on the Halloween soundtrack.
Yeah, very first one.
Well, I just have a few more questions. I was wondering, there was a band around here called Pentagram. I know that Sandy Pearlman supposedly, because I love the DC scene and I know a lot of the cats around here. And there was a band called Pentagram. And back in the day, that I think Sandy Pearlman was kind of looking at a band that was more like Black Sabbath, and that was they kind of fit the bill. And they actually went up to New York to record. And I wasn't sure if you'd ever heard of that story before or know who I'm talking about.
No, I did not hear that, but I wouldn't be surprised. And I think I actually played with Pentagram in the Brain Surgeons, opening up for them in Ohio. Yes, in the
Okay.
very, right after I was not in BOC.
Okay.
They
Yeah,
were
they did.
good.
They tour a little bit, but they played mainly in the local area, but they would go to New York and,
Yeah.
play occasionally around here. Um, do you have I was wondering if you had, because we were talking about the road, and do you have any like crazy stories or just a couple of crazy stories that you want to just
Uh,
regale us with, like one or two,
hey,
like
hey, man.
maybe you ran into somebody that you were awestruck or starstruck, or any like TVs out the windows, just
Oh, yeah. There's so many stories. I don't know. Crazy stories. How about this one? So we're playing in LA. LA seemed to be a place where there was a lot of crazy stories.
this is like in the
But
70s, 75, or
yeah, it had to be the 70s. And Kim Fowley came. You know Kim Fowley, right?
the Runaways.
Famous producer, Runaways. He was in the Hollywood Argyles with Ali. Oop, 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 oop. Genuine Dinosaur. Anyway, he was a funny kind of, I don't know, kind of a Queen guy. And so he invited us to this party. And so we go to the party. It's in the Hollywood Hills. It's like we go up the canyon, we drive, and it seems like we're driving forever, and it's a desert. And we have to stop the car, and we have to walk like a half a mile to where we can hear what it sounds like Black Sabbath is playing. And we get to the place, and there's all these girls scantily clad and all these animals. There was a camel, there was sheep, there was all these birds. It was like an animal sanctuary, and there was a cover band playing Black Sabbath. And we're hanging out like going, what is going to happen? This is just bizarre. And Kim is like, oh, it's all about to happen, guys, just hang around, And then this camel started harassing Sandy Proman and chasing him around. And Sandy said, I gotta go, let's get out of here.
You like Sandy's scent, huh?
Yeah, I think he fell in love with Sandy.
Funny.
So you missed the major event.
I missed the major event. Yes, whatever crazy bacchanal was happening, it happened without me, and that's just fine.
Right. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on. Do you have any thoughts or any questions, Steve? I'm the old school guy. I ask all the old school questions, and Steve's like, he's on the younger side, so he's taking in all the knowledge. He's just soaking it in.
Yeah.
I'm curious because obviously the 60s were quite a transformational period culturally as well as musically, and we talked about early sex, drugs, rock and roll. How much of drugs and different drugs influenced songwriting over the years?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was a teacher for 31 years after the thing, and my students, high school students, they're like, hey, what drugs did you take? And I said, all of them.
Yeah.
I took them all. I did them all. I feel like I'm very lucky that I didn't, end up like some of these other guys that just couldn't stop, and that became their whole life. I mean, for me, music was always my life, and I would take the drug unless it got in the way of my music, and if it did, then I had to go. And
You were asking how the songs were influenced by the drugs. How the music was influenced.
Yeah, I would say there was definitely psychedelics. We took psychedelics when we were starting out, and I think that the psychedelics always kind of, it was a profound experience for me. I didn't do that many trips, but every time I did, I saw God, and I saw into the nature of music.
That's a good guy to see.
Yeah. I did. I was raised very religious, and then when I got in college, I had a course being taught by this guy, Wes Craven. That Wes Craven.
Wes Craven, okay.
Yeah. So the Friday the 13th guy. So, and it was called existentialism. And all of a sudden, between that course and reading Sartre and Genet and all these other guys, Camus, and the Vietnam War, okay, so, I was very against the war. I thought that, that it was unfair that the government would ask me to go and do something as radical as killing another human being, and I had no say in it whatsoever. It seemed like nobody had any say. It was just the government decided this, and I thought, how dare they do this? So I went to the draft board and I said, I want to be a conscientious objector. And the head of the draft board was somebody who knew me growing up. He was one of my neighbors in this upstate farming community. And he said, well, but you're a Catholic. You can't be a conscientious objector if you're a Catholic. I said, well, then what's the point of, that you're going to break the fifth commandment just because that this doesn't matter? I mean, isn't religion supposed to be personal? Is it supposed to be political? So at that point, I stopped doing all religion and kind of
Took LSD instead.
I was going to be an atheist, and then I took LSD, and I'm like, oh no,
rock and roll became your religion.
Yeah, well, and the universal energy, the energy of the universe. That's pretty much the force, the force.
Right on, man.
Yeah, but that's where I'm at with that, and I think that. But that also, I felt like I understood stuff. I took drugs and I knew things.
Well, that's awesome, man. Did you have any last words? I mean, you're one of the hardest working guys in rock and roll that I know of. You're working on the Blue Coupe and the Dictators and your solo stuff, and there might be some BOC stuff in the works. And so, I mean, do you have any last words for your fans?
Other things too. I have a musical I'm helping somebody with. Well, I would say that, I describe myself as a unapologetic, relentless optimist. I always see the silver lining and the try and flip everything to a positive, even if it's not a positive. But there's always, I worked with this my old girlfriend, Helen Wheels, for many years, after we were partners, and she would say, every crisis an opportunity. What are you going to do with it? So, and that's how I feel. Every crisis is an opportunity, and it's a chance. Every bad thing that happens is a chance for growth. I really believe that.
Well, it's been a real pleasure to have you on, and you too, Susie. I'm sure we'll see you on the road soon, hopefully in the DC area.
She's in the band.
The Bouchard brothers or solo, or I'll keep an eye out. I was telling Chip that there's a great club here called the Tally Ho. The BOC just played there a year or so, because I saw them here called the Tally Ho. It's a great little club.
Maybe we can play there, yeah.
And but it's been a pleasure talking to you. And I just have one last thing to say, and that's, remember, look to the stars, carry that torch of enlightenment, and strive to be a disciple of rock and roll and the Brotherhood of Orpheus.
I will do that. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Your flesh we feed. like it evil. We like it dark. We like it bloody. We like it fast. We like it we don't like it bad. We cast and sweat. We live our life on the firing line. Hell, we don't care. We like things broken. We like things up. You could check out any time you like. If the truth be told.